Using Excel to create a final draft of the Math-A-Thon. After watching this video, students will be able to use MathType and Word to create a final draft of the Math-A-Thon assignment. Students will also be able to create a function table in Excel by using formulas. Lastly, students will be able to create the appropriate display for the Math-A-Thon data using Excel. Before we go too much further, what you see on the screen is an example of what your work might look like. You'll notice the heading is in the top left corner, and in the center is the title that is underlined. Below the title, you'll see that each portion of the Math-A-Thon is labeled with its capital letter. Now, some of you might have a version of Word that allows you to insert equations, and that's built into Word. Some of you will see it over here where it says Insert, and other people might see it in the toolbars and other places. The version of Word I use does not include that option, and if yours doesn't either, you can go to Google, type in MathType. Here you'll see MathType Equation Editor, a 30-day trial. So MathType is a free program that I use. It allows me to type fractions and equations and then copy and paste them into Word. All you need to do is just choose the version, enter an email address, and then download MathType. When you open MathType, you get a window like this, and you'll see that I've already typed in an equation. I can also type in an equation for the other company. Next, I highlight, copy, and if I want to paste my equation here, I paste it, and I can enter another equation right underneath it if I'm showing my work. Alright, so that's how you can use MathType to enter equations and then copy and paste them into your Word document. You can use that for part A and for part B, and if you use the balancing method, you can use that in part C also. Next, I'd like to go over to Excel and talk about how we would use Excel to make our table and then how we would use it to make our graph. So here in cell A1, we would type the title of that cell, which is number of t-shirts. In B1, we would use the abbreviation for one size fits all. And in parentheses, we would enter the $sign because all of the numbers in that column are going to be measured in dollars. In the third column, we would enter the abbreviation for you draw it, we print it. Okay. And I would also want to remember to use the $sign in this column as well. Now, if you didn't want to use the abbreviations, if you wanted to type one size fits all and then enter the $sign, that's okay. You'll notice that in each case the words were larger than the cell that I typed them into. If you've never used wrap text before, what wrap text does is it wraps the text down to the next line. So I click on the cell, I click on wrap text, and I do it again. And if I want, I can space this out differently. I could space it so that number of t-shirts and t-shirts is on the next line. Here, in number of t-shirts, we always start with 0 t-shirts. And then we go up by 5, so we have 5 and 10 and onward. And if you wanted to, you can continue to enter going up by 5s. If you've never tried this before, here's a cool shortcut. You can highlight the 3 numbers you've entered, come down to the corner where this little blue box is, and wait for the cross to go black. And you can click and drag, and notice how inside the yellow box, these numbers are going up by 5. I know that my table has to end when I get to 90. When I let go, it's counted up by 5s for me. And so that's just a shortcut. If you want to use that, you can use it. Here, underneath where it says one size fits all, you're going to enter the equation that you wrote for part A for one size fits all. You said that the cost of t-shirts at one size fits all was equal to $4 times the number of shirts. So what I'm doing here is I'm entering the equal sign, $4 times the number of shirts. But the number of shirts is located right here in this column. So I'm going to click on where it says 0. Notice what it does is it's now going to take 4 and multiply it by whatever number is in the A column. When I hit enter, it's done that multiplication for me. Now right now that might not seem like a great shortcut, but again I can come over to the corner and get the black cross and click and drag down to 90, and right there it's just gone and created all of my totals for one size fits all. I can come over here to UDraw it, we print it. I enter the equal sign first, 75 plus 3 times, and again I need to multiply that by the number in the A column. I hit enter. And again I'm coming over here to get the black cross. And I'm clicking and dragging down to 20. And now I have all of the numbers I need in my table. At this point you can do some formatting. If you want to change the font, change the size of the font, you can. I like to make sure that everything is centered. And then I also like to make sure that I have grid lines. And now the table is complete. So I can copy and paste this table directly into my Math-A-Thon final draft. Next, we can use that table to build the graph. So we already have the table highlighted. And we're going to look for charts. Again, your version of Word might look slightly different. That's okay. I'm clicking on charts and I'm looking for scatter or scatter plot. And I'm looking for the option that says marked scatter. Again, these might all be slightly different on your version of Word. I'm going to click marked scatter. What it does is it goes and creates a scatter plot. You'll notice that the blue diamonds are for one size fits all, and the red squares are for you draw it, we print it. But you'll notice that there's no title and there's no label on either of my axes. So I'm going to go up here to where it says chart layout and chart title. And I can decide if I want the title above the chart or the title to overlap at the top. And I'm going to choose a title for my graph. So I'm going to call this the Math-A-Thon. You can find something that's more creative. Next, you're also going to go up here to axis titles, horizontal axis, title below axis. And here, these are the number of t-shirts. I can return to do vertical axis, and I can either do rotated title or vertical title. So this is cost of t-shirts measured in dollars, so I put the dollar sign in parentheses. I can also format the legend if I choose to do so, and I can also choose to have it label every single point with its numbers. So if you did that, you would be labeling each point with its cost. I sometimes find that that makes it too busy and unclear, so I'm going to remove that. Next, we're going to go here where it says axes. We're going to go to horizontal and options. And I'm going to change some of these numbers. I'm going to enter 0 for the minimum. My maximum value on the x-axis is 90. I'm going to change the major units to 5 and the minor units to 1. And when I click OK, what it's done now is it's labeled each tick mark going up by 5 t-shirts. I can do the same thing for the vertical axis. So on the vertical axis, I'm going to keep minimum at 0. I'm going to keep maximum at 400. And then for major, you can choose 10 or 15 or 25. That's your choice. And what it does is it goes and changes your dollar amounts to go up by $25. Underneath grid lines, for horizontal grid lines, I would make sure that you have major checked off. And for vertical grid lines, I make sure that you have major checked off, and you'll notice that it creates a grid. We'll see our important point here, 75, 300, is where the 2 points are right on top of each other. Okay. You can continue to format this in terms of sizing of the graph, sizing of the fonts, colors of the fonts, etc. Okay. But when you're all done, you just simply click on your graph, you copy it, you come over here to your final draft, and you paste it where it says E for graph. So here you'll notice I need to do a little bit of formatting in terms of my graph. Maybe I move some things over, maybe I change the size, maybe I just make it wider to see if that helps. And from here I go on and continue my work. In part F, you want to make sure you've talked about the table, the graph, and the equations to support your point. In order to use the equations, you would take the 2 equations from part A and set them equal to each other, and then solve. Parts G and parts H are going to be all words, so you'll type your responses there. I hope after watching this video that you're now able to create a function table in Excel and then turn that function table into a graph.